Hey, it's Melissa from Kiwibanana, and today I'm going to do a video on a topic that I guess you could say is quite controversial and a little bit scary for me to share, should I say, if I'm going to be honest. And that is basically, I don't know how to put it, I guess people call it my coming out video. And I guess I should give you maybe like a little bit of a background. This is not like, it's something that I identify with, but it's not very, but I don't share it with many people, and I've only just started to share this with like some of my family and like my close friends. It's definitely, it's something that I can hide sometimes quite easily, but I'm a little bit conflicted in hiding it, and like, is it going to be more detrimental to other people for me to do that? So I'm try and look at this camera, try and look in the camera. I get a little, when I am talking about things like this, I tend to get, I guess you could say, a little bit nervous, and I start looking everywhere. It doesn't necessarily look too good for you guys. And this could be long, so maybe you might want to get some popcorn, sit down, or grab yourself some fruit. Popcorn preferably with no butter, it's great. So anyway, okay, well, basically I'm just going to say it. This is not as easy as I thought it was going to be. I am pansexual. Okay, so I've said that. I've said it. It's out there. You've heard it. Okay, you heard it from me. How do I start? So growing up, I'd always been, I guess you could say, easily fitting into the straight, I don't know what you call it, fitting in as a straight person, maybe experimenting a little bit on the side, in secret though, with other genders, and possibly being like, okay, so yeah, I obviously don't just like one gender, and I didn't really tell anybody this. I would tell, I had told in the past a few of my ex-partners, because I felt like it was kind of important, like they're part of like my sexuality, and they're the ones that are really involved with attraction and things like that. So I felt like it was kind of important to tell them, but of course I didn't tell all my ex-partners, just out of, I don't know, out of fear or whatever. And over the years, I've started to, how do I put it, sort of look into it a little bit more, and just sort of like, sometimes I'd just be sort of checking like, oh no, I must just be straight, and then sometimes I'm like, no, I'm not straight, and I just get really confused. So over the years, like, sometimes you just sort of check into like the LGBT and more community, like it's online, and just sort of, and every time I would sort of be like, okay, well, I definitely fit somewhere along there, and there's obviously going to be a point in my life where I'm actually just going to have to accept that, and that's just going to have to be okay, and I should, people will either going to carry on like, it's no big deal, or they're either just going to, reject me out of their life, if that's even a term that I can use. So I guess, currently I am in a relationship with a cisgender male, and most of my relationships have been with cisgender males, so it's been very easy for me to hide my sexuality and just pretend to be a straight person, if that's what you want to call it. But I don't know if that is such a good thing for the LGBT and more community, if people like myself are always hiding our sexuality. I feel like maybe if I was a little bit more honest about it with more people, it's almost like it would say like I support the LGBT community, and I believe that they should be given equal rights, and I believe that sometimes they may need to be given a little bit more than someone of the straight sexuality. That's what you call it. Now, some of you are probably going, now, what is pansexual? And some people who are pansexual don't actually use the term pansexual. They prefer to use other labels, and that's generally like bisexual or like bisexual plus, and there's other terminologies that they may use. And like pansexual basically is bisexual. It's just, I think, as time's progressed, people in like, especially like Western society, they've thought of bisexual as being like, okay, there's this person and they like cisgender males and cisgender females, and that's it. Whereas actually bisexuality can actually be you like two genders, and they might not be any of those genders, or they might be a whole range of genders. Because I am hoping that some of you are realizing now that there's actually more than just cisgender males and cisgender females. And some of you are probably going, what is cisgender? And cisgender, if I was to try and describe it to you, is like you were born like a certain gender when you came into this world, and the doctor was like, hey, you're a boy, and you're like, oh cool, and you've always identified as a male throughout your life. You identify with the gender that you were kind of like assigned when you were born. That's just like a really simple sort of definition of what cisgender is. So most people in the world are cisgender. I myself is cisgender, and like my current partner is cisgender. So, like there's obviously that, but there's also like all these other genders. I'm hoping some of you realize, there's transgender, there's people who identify as no gender, there's people who are like gender fluid, so they'll go between one or another, and there might be other people who identify as two genders. Like it's not black and white. There's lots of different shades of grey, if that's what we want to call it. And so me being pansexual just means that I really don't mind what gender someone is. I'm attracted to the person. Yeah, so that's basically what I'm trying to say, is that I don't really care what gender you are. I'm just attracted to you as a person. I guess that's the most simplified way I can put it. And the reason why there's actually a number of reasons why I don't always identify as like, with bisexuality and pansexuality, it's the same thing, or can be the same thing, is because obviously there's the fear of like being rejected or being judged or being treated differently than like most of the other people around you. And I guess another reason is that like I am vegan, and I already like with any sort of like niche, if you want to call them, or fringe communities or groups, labels, whatever you want to call them, there's always going to be like fighting about like the most ridiculous things. And I'm not talking about like physical fighting, but just especially with the use of internet, it's just like it's really silly, because we're all trying to fight for like one thing or like a multitude of things, but then we're fighting about the most minute things that really have nothing to do with what we're trying to fight. Hope this is making sense. But I feel like if I start identifying with like the LGBT and more community, that I'm then going to involve myself in like more silly things that I don't need in my life, you know, with the fighting I'm talking about. And like I'm currently in I'm not in a polyamorous relationship currently, so it's not like I'm looking for anybody, and like I have like a few friends who are like LGBT, and you know, like I love hanging out with them and stuff, but I'm not going to just hang out with people who are part of the LGBT community. Oh, and I guess the last reason why don't like identifying as it sometimes is because I'm fair. Obviously there's a whole rejection of, okay, well, you don't really fit in the straight community, but you also don't fit in the gay community, you know, you're not lesbian enough or whatever it may be, and that's something that I worry about too. And it's like, okay, well, I've come to this point where in my life where I'm like, okay, I'm starting to tell people this, and like I'm not going to go around shouting it at everybody. It's not something that, you know, is going to come up. It's probably something that comes up less in my day-to-day life than like veganism, you know, because veganism is it'll come up with things like food, and that's occurring like 3 times a day. People don't talk about sexuality and gender identities and things like that 3 times a day, and you know, every single person in the world is not really thinking in that sort of way. I guess I'm sure some people, but you know what I mean, you don't have a conversation with many people, with every person that you meet in your everyday life about sexuality. So I'm not going around telling everybody, but I might as well just start telling people, and just letting them know this is who I am. This doesn't make me any bit of a different person than what I was before. This is just like a little bit of a secret that I may have been keeping from you in the past, and now I'm just trying to tell you. So yeah, I think I've said all that I need to say, and I know my channel is primarily about veganism, but it's also about many other things, and just sort of like what might be interesting me at the moment, and maybe what, you know, could be interesting you at the moment. And I think things like veganism and people of the LGBT community, like we can learn from a lot of these two communities. We can learn a lot from each other, and I think it'd be really good to see more of them, more of these communities sort of coming together. And I'm not saying that, you know, being gay is the same as an animal being killed for food. I'm not saying it's the same, but it's part of like a big oppression. It's part of it together, and we can really learn from each other about how we can try and fight those oppressions. So yeah, I think I'll finish this video here. Like if you like it. I hope there's not too many dislikes, and I hope there's not going to be too much unsubscribing. This doesn't change me as a person. I'm just now sharing a little secret that you may not have known about me. And I hope you've done something that makes you happy today. See ya.